The Everglades. It has long been rumored that a sea of black gold lies underneath southwestern Florida, but many say there is no way to get to it without poisoning the very thing that makes life there possible, an abundance of clean water. America Tonight's Adam May reports. We're
Air's dying, water's dying, the people's getting sick.
Great.
Wake up before you kill the all creation of the God's gift. Thank you.
One by one, they stepped up to the microphone to voice their fears and tell their stories.
My brother died last year at 51. My sister died the year before at 50. I'm 49 years old. And I just got out of the hospital with a lung removed. I don't want my kids to die like my family did. Get them out.
So it went for more than 4 hours at a recent hearing of state and federal officials in southwest Florida. The reason for their anger, a plan to drill for oil next to the Everglades wilderness.
What do we want? Clean water! What do we want it? Now!
Southwest Florida has become the latest battleground in the search for oil. New techniques are making it possible to drill in areas where it was once difficult. But many say the resulting wastewater will be toxic.
I just hope people realize this is about clean water.
Among those in the crowd, Pamela and Jaime Duran. They live little more than a stone's throw from one of the proposed oil wells.
Ground zero is down there, and it's 1,000 feet to where it is.
And so this is it. You'll be able to see this pretty clear, huh? So the well would be right about there?
The well would be in line with that tree, I'd say about 400, the beginning of the path would be about 400 feet from here. This is part of the watershed that is the Everglades.
Jaime is a retired engineer, Pamela an artist. They live in a setting that can only be described as fairy tale.
It's the little piece of paradise. We thought this was a healthy way to retire.
You call it a little piece of paradise.
It's a little piece of paradise, yes. Yeah. There are no noises here. You don't hear anything at night. You hear crickets, and that's about as loud as it gets at night.
If an oil well does go in next door, it'll be noise, dust, and dozens of trucks passing the Duran's home each day. But there's one thing that worries them most. As part of the drilling, millions of gallons of wastewater, laced with chemicals, will be injected back into the ground. They fear it'll poison their water supply.
If there's a spill, it will eventually get to this water well.
And this is water you cook with? You drink? You bathe in? You feel pretty confident right now the water is good?
The water is good.
Yeah.
If the well goes through?
If the well goes through, there's a possibility that this water may be tainted.
But they say that the injection process will not taint your well.
It's tainted others.
It's tainted others. It's tainted water in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in New York.
The Durans, along with several friends, have gotten together to fight the proposed oil wells. They recently held a beachfront rally at the governor's vacation home, and they turned their front yard into a giant billboard.
We're worried about the 3-month-old next door.
Yeah.
You know, if the water's contaminated and you bathe a baby in that kind of water, what's going to happen 5 years down the road for this child? We need clean water, clean air. It's not political. It's a human rights issue. Everybody deserves it.
It's not just humans the Durans worry about. The oil well next to them would also be less than a mile from the Florida Panther National Wildlife Refuge. The refuge and the area surrounding it is the last sanctuary for these endangered animals.
There's days I've been out here doing research where colleagues and we've seen female mother panther with her 2 offspring and then 10-foot alligators sitting right near there.
Ian Bartozak is a biologist for the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, a local environmental group. He took us to one place the panthers roam, a place where cameras are rarely allowed. Right now, we're just just down the street from one of the proposed well sites, and oddly enough, the government is spending hundreds of millions of dollars to restore the Everglades. This used to be a housing development, and now it's being given back to nature. Southern Golden Gate Estates was going to be the largest subdivision in America, home to 500,000 people. But when the development failed, some of those nearly extinct panthers moved in. The government has deemed this land, more than 50,000 acres adjacent to the panther refuge, as vital to the survival of the Everglades ecosystem. Its animals and plants depend on clean water. An oil well accident just to the north could be disastrous. Let's say upstream from here, there was some sort of a chemical spill or industrial accident, and it got into the water up there. Would that affect this area as well, biologically speaking?
So if that water is moving and there was a major disturbance, quite likely that would have implications downstream. This is a pretty special place.
The current search for oil isn't the first time this land has seen a rush to exploit its natural resources.
Yeah, let's head up there. This is an amazing spot and an amazing organism.
What's it called? What's its technical name?
This is a bald cypress, and it's an old growth cypress tree. It's probably been here for 500 years. Wow. This forest used to be dominated by trees of this size. And the logging element that came through here removed 99.9% of these trees here, and the few that we ever find scattered or way out in the swamp strands, and they're hollow like this one.
Now it's oil, not lumber, that's attracting industry to this unique landscape. But what a lot of people don't know, not even in Florida, is that there's already oil drilling going on in the greater Everglades. This area isn't open to the public. The National Park Service gave us a special tour.
Inbound, marker 6, marker 6.
About 25 miles from the newly proposed wells, several existing wells pump away day and night. They're located deep in the heart of the Big Cypress National Preserve. And so they have drilling operations taking part here on National Park Service territory.
Yes.
And how many oil wells are here right now?
Approximately 7, 8.
Don Hargrove oversees oil and gas operations inside Big Cypress. The new wells will use some of the same technology as these, including injecting wastewater into the ground. And you're see dozens of more operations like this scattered throughout the greater Everglades area. Could that ecosystem
National.
It depends on them operating, how responsible they are.
Unbelievable.
Overall, how do you feel this operation is running?
I think they've done a very good job over the years. Only killed 2 people.
There's no telling if the company drilling the new wells would have the same approach.
Ew.
And there have been reports of leaks at some injection sites across the United States. But here, the Park Service regularly tests the water and says it has never seen any evidence of contamination. Hargrove says, at the worst, these wells are a short-term eyesore. In your experience,
Right, like they're going to take them away?
Problems related to the oil drilling here so far?
Any impact on the surface, any pads that's constructed, anything, you can consider that as an impact. However, they're usually temporary. They're not there forever. They're removed and restored at some point.
Believe it or not, less than 40 years ago, this used to be the site of an oil drilling operation. All the equipment has been removed and it's been turned back to nature. Some say this is proof that oil drilling can be done in an environmentally responsible manner. Others say it should have always looked like this. You may wonder why drilling is even allowed on national park land. Well, the rights to the oil under much of Big Cypress and to some 800,000 acres across southwest Florida belong to descendants of Baron Collier, once the largest landowner in the state. The Collier companies are behind the new plans to drill. We left several messages with Collier companies, but they went unanswered. So we came here to their headquarters in Naples, and I tracked down a company spokeswoman. She said they have no comment. In previous statements to residents, Collier says that the proposed oil wells will be safe. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection agrees. In a statement, they told us that the wells meet its requirements, designed to protect freshwater aquifers. As for the panthers, it says the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which runs the Panther Refuge, didn't have any objections to the proposed drilling.
Not true.
The Durans aren't buying it. They don't believe the thirst for oil justifies risking their slice of paradise. The well slated for the field next to their house still has at least one significant hurdle to clear: getting a permit from the federal EPA. If that happens, the Durans aren't sure what they'll do. They've already talked about moving.
People get upset when the rainforest goes, but we're letting the Everglades go. This is a special place. When they let oil drilling and the Grand Canyon, where are we going to stop? You know, is there anything sacred?
And those against the oil drilling just got a minor victory. A state advisory group looked over all the facts, heard some testimony, and came out against it. Now, the opinion doesn't hold any legal weight, but it is giving environmentalists just a little bit of momentum when so far everything else has gotten a green light when it comes to the projects.
You know, Adam, I think anybody would be struck by this. Who even thought that there was this sort of work going on? How widespread is this oil drilling?
Well, it's really interesting. A lot of Floridians didn't know that it was happening in parts of the greater Everglades for decades now, but now there is more interest being shown by a number of different companies coming in there. They're exploring, they're asking for permits, more than a couple of dozen different locations in some parts of that area. A lot of renewed interest right now because people are seeing there's the possibility to make a lot of money there.
So new technologies are involved. It sounded a little bit like fracking with the natural gas. Is this the same thing?
Yeah, it sounds like fracking. In fact, some of the groups are saying no fracking. This is not fracking. They use completely different technology. There is one common thread, though, with fracking, and that is the injection of some chemicals into the ground, and that what has a lot of these groups very worried, especially with Florida, because the ground there is so much different. And tomorrow night, I'm going to have part 2 of my report on the Everglades oil war. We're going to sit down with Jennifer Hecker of the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. That is one of the state's largest and most respected environmental groups.
There are special laws for oil and gas wastewater where even if it's the same chemicals that would normally be classified as hazardous, they're considered non-hazardous if they're associated with oil and gas activity.
So we talked a lot more about the environmental concerns, a lot more about these chemicals. My full interview is coming up Tuesday on America Tonight.
We'll look forward to that, Adam May. Thanks very much.